Hey, welcome to another episode of Changing the Face of Wellness podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Harper. Listen, I have a question for you. What if where God is calling you to next, your life is not sustainable to even carry it? So, as I think about where you are being called to next, where I am being called to next, it requires us to be able to have a life that can sustain what God is even calling you to carry, whether it is in this season or in the next season. Is your life sustainable? Do you have sustainable habits? Do you have things that allow your life, your health to be sustainable for where you're going? There was a point in my life where in 2017, I was an educator, right? I was a high school educator and I was standing in the middle of the classroom. My class had just finished. So I'm standing in the classroom by myself, cleaning the classroom, picking up the pencils and all the trash or whatever, what have you, placing the desks where they're supposed to be. And my heart starts beating profusely out of my chest, just out of control. And I started to tell myself, okay, just breathe, right? Trying to calm myself down. And after that, I realized, okay, my heart is not slowing down. I don't know what's going on. So I started to panic, which made my heart beat even more. But as my heart is starting to beat profusely out of my chest, then it feels like the ceiling is starting to spin, right? So now my heart is beating out of control and the ceiling is starting to spin. So the next thought that I had was, okay, I have to get out of this classroom because I don't know what's going on. And I don't want anybody to, find me at the last minute, right? While, God forbid, dead, right? And so I quickly made my way down to the nurses, the clinic, the school clinic. When I got there, luckily there were no students there. It was just the school nurse. And she set me down, gave me a cup of water, and she took my blood pressure. And she said, you know what, Miss Harper, your blood pressure is through the roof. Would you like me to call an ambulance? And so it was that day in 2017 where I said, you know what, I have to take back control of my life. But here's the thing about it. I knew exactly how I should have been living because I had the bachelor's degree in exercise science. I have the master's degree in community counseling, but I was not utilizing the tools that I paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for, right, through getting my bachelor's and my master's. I wasn't utilizing those tools. But, luckily for me, I knew what tools to use to reverse my blood pressure. I knew what tools to use to lower my stress, to bring more peace, to really be in a place where my life could sustain where God was telling me to be in that season, right? And so I want to be able to help you get that tool so that you too have what's necessary to be able to have good health and so that you can sustain all that God is telling you to carry in this season and into your next, right? And so the one thing I want to talk about is in order have a life that is sustainable and that can carry what God is telling you to carry in this season or even in the next, you have to draw fences around you. And so when I say a fence, I mean, you got to know where you begin and where you end and where your responsibilities begin and where they end. You have to create that space between you and your responsibilities. And so some people might use the word boundary, right? You got to have boundaries. And that is true. You got to have boundaries. So some people might say, well, it is about just saying no to everything. I don't believe that. It's not just about saying no to everything because you really have to know what God is telling you to say no to and what God is telling you to say yes to. Nevertheless, whether you're giving someone a yes or a no, you got to know where you begin and where you end. And so you have to create space for yourself. That is the biggest reason why you got to know where your fence is. Okay. Because when your fence is closed, you got to have time for yourself. Like, how often are you actually closing your fence? How often are you closing it? Are you rarely closing it or is it always open? People always have access to you. You're always taking care of everything outside of your home, right? Everybody's taking care of everybody else's home and everybody else's needs and what everybody else is requiring of you. And yes, you have to be able to carry that with grace, right? Because God is telling you to carry some things, but you cannot forget that God is also calling you to yourself. You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your home. You got to take care of your space. You got to take care of your mind, your body, your health, your blood pressure, your weight. Those are the things, your peace, your mind. You got to take care of those things as well. And so when you think about the book of Esther, right? When we think about Esther, right, we see that Malachi said, hey, and you are being called to save your people. And one of the first things that she did was like, how am I supposed to do that? Right. If I'm not supposed to be called or summoned. I can't go and see the king unless I'm being called or summoned. And so that's where Malachi said, well, what if you were made for such a time as this? Right. What if this is your moment? But further beyond that, we often stop there at that scripture. When you think even further beyond that, I believe it's in Esther 4, when you think even beyond that chapter, one of the first things that she did when she gave her yes is she said, I'm going to go away and I'm going to fast for 3 days. I'm going to fast for 3 days and I want you to do the same. So not only was she a leader telling other people how to also pause, right? Giving them permission to pause. It is also giving herself permission to pause. And so I believe that we're in a season where we are to live exactly how Esther lived, right? If you are a high achieving woman who is carrying a lot, I want you to study the book of Esther. And if you want to study with me, you can. I often talk about Esther, especially Esther 4, chapter 4. We see how she did not just quickly move into her assignment. She moved into her assignment with grace. She slowed down. She paused. She got her mind together. She wanted to hear from God, right? And also in fasting, it is getting your body together. It is getting your body right. It's getting your mind right. It is preparing your body for the call. It is preparing your mind for the call. So the question is, how often are you preparing your mind and your body for the call? Have you ever prepared your mind and body for the call? Or do you typically look at wellness as, I just need to get my body right for summer? Because I can guarantee you that wellness and exercise and eating right and your sleep and all those things, it is much more than just how you look. It is so much more than just the aesthetics. It is also, making sure that you have enough energy for what God is calling you to, making sure that you are able to hear God in this season for what God is calling you to do and your responsibility, right? And then especially if you are a leader, slowing down so that you can hear, through the spirit and be able to hear from God on how you're supposed to handle his people is also important. But like I said, in 2017, I had to get my mind and my body right, because there's no way that I can teach anybody's children. There's no way I can lead in my classroom if I don't have enough energy, if I'm overly stressed, if I don't ever slow down, if I don't have enough rest, if my blood pressure is too high, if, just all the things, if I don't take time for myself. And so this is your time. For not only are you being called, I want you to be sustained. You are called and sustained. Now, you might have some type of wellness gap and you don't know exactly where you should begin. I want you to go to rachelharper.kit.com/gap. And I want you to take the wellness gap quiz. It's going to show you exactly where you are having some wellness gaps, exactly where you need to begin filling those gaps so that you can be called and sustained and begin to live your life like Esther, right? I'm giving you permission to pause, to slow down, to take care of yourself. Just quite simply as that. And that's beyond just basic level self-care, getting your hair and nails done, right? Like my hair is done right now. Okay, I might feel good, but I still got to make sure that I'm taking care of my body and my mind and making sure that I am sustaining myself. I'm keeping my stress low, my energy high, my peace extremely high so that I can continue to be called and sustained.